Well, perhaps I'll start since clearly this is a file that I was a member of when it was brought before committee. But before I talk about it, can I just ask Barb, this is totally within committee's discretion, is it? Okay, thank you. So I'll just start, maybe because, as I say, I was involved in this. And I've read the letter quite carefully and reviewed the YouTube record of this that sort of jives with my recollection of the discussion. And I'll just say at the top, I'm quite sympathetic to the applicant. This is one of these files, as she points out, that on the surface of it looked fairly straightforward. And as we do sometimes when they are straightforward and there are no opponents registered, we sometimes waive the presentation. And we did so in that case. However, during the in-committee discussion, it was clear that there were other concerns that were panel members had, and at the end of the day, the committee voted to refuse this application, with the chair abstaining. So, in retrospect, given the circumstances and the concerns that were raised, and the fact that it ultimately was refused, I can't help but think it might have been better had the applicant had an opportunity to make their presentation, and that might have been something that would have been helpful to the members in understanding the application. So I feel in this situation that perhaps the applicant could have been afforded more opportunity to present their case, and as a consequence, really shouldn't be subject to, in this case, the fees. So I'm, as I say, I'm sympathetic to the request.
Based on Larry's recollections of what happened, it sounds as though this was a mistake, and it does sound as though the applicant was not afforded every opportunity to present his case through no fault of his own. And on that basis, I also would support the refund.
Yeah, I would agree with those comments.
So do we have to? Well, I don't. I don't see the need for recusal. I will take staff's advice if they think I should, but in my view, I don't see a conflict.
I would recommend that we refund the fees as requested, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Hatch. I'm here for 95 HOCKEN Avenue. Thank you. So as you can see, this proposal is a new proposed third story on top of the existing footprint of the house. There are two variances requested for gross floor area and a reduced parking in the rear. HOCKEN is a mixed density street in a state of change. The existing housing stock consists of craftsman homes, Victorian, modern rebuilds, including 1950s and 60s redesigns. The proposal at 95 HOCKEN is to redesign a 1950s or 1960s style home. We're proposing to keep the existing facade and add a new third floor. We are requesting a GFA of 0.816 in lieu of the required 0.6. And you can see from our research that HOCKEN Avenue is regularly being approved anywhere from 0.8 all the way up to 1.0. Our proposal is well within the standard. The parking space variance is at the rear is an existing condition. The garage is older. It doesn't actually fit a car. The existing condition has always been parking beside it, and we are seeking to maintain that reduced parking condition. HOCKEN Avenue itself is unique, as the next street to the north is a through street. So on the north side, the north flanking side, you've got mostly garages that flank that side using brick and siding and modern panels. The housing on the street itself is mixed in that it uses all sorts of materials from brick and siding. We've designed a very simple addition. This is a growing family that's attempting to stay within the city amid rising house prices. And what we've proposed is a very simple addition on top that uses similar materials that are seen throughout the street. There's no variances for height, length, or side yard setbacks. You've seen from earlier that there are letters of support. We have been speaking to the neighbors, and initially we had positive feedback, but that has since changed. We believe that this is a very modest proposal, and we would seek your approval. I believe there's going to be opposition that's going to be speaking on the file, so we'll speak to it further. Well, I believe there's going to be opposition that's going to be speaking to it, so I would hand over.
Mr. Chair, it's just a point of clarification because I think it's very pertinent to the application. The purpose of the application does not mention that this is a semi-detached dwelling, and I think it should.
I am. Can you guys hear me through this, or should I switch over to a different speaker? Yep. Perfect. Thank you so much. So my name is Fernando Dutor, and I'm actually speaking on behalf of my mother, Rosa Dutor, who is the owner of 93 HOCKEN. Limits by what I figure is probably 20% if I've read the documentation correctly, and a GFA variance, which is greater by 36%. Over the 0.6 that's allowed by the bylaw. Although it appears that there are homes in the area that have a greater GFA than the bylaw allows, they represent a very small percentage of homes in the area. There are only 5 on HOCKEN. The variations on some of them were not that great either. It just represents a very small percentage. And I also don't believe that any of them are semi-detached, and believe that all of them, if not all of them, have extended to the rear and not in height. The height would not only impact the sunlight of my mother's backyard and vegetable garden, which would receive late afternoon and evening hour daylight, but it would also impact the aesthetics, making both houses less desirable. According to estimates from real estate agents, which I did provide one online there, due to the unaesthetically appeasing look of a lopsided semi-detached, when my mother's home goes on the real estate market in the future, it would lose anywhere from 10 to 15% of its potential value. This would also impact the aesthetics of the neighborhood, as there are no semi-detached homes in the neighborhood, where one side of the semi-detached is a floor taller than the other side. Other concerns that we have was that since it is a semi-detached house, there is a shared roof which has provided structural integrity for both homes for many, many decades without any issues. A change to this structure could potentially cause integrity issues and damage to my mother's house during the construction and in the future. With the proposed flat roof of 95 HOCKEN Avenue as well, it would cause extra wear and tear on my mother's roof from the blowing snow, leaves, and other debris that would drop from the taller roof. There's also an increased risk of damage to the structural integrity of both homes, where my mom's roof would now meet the exterior wall of the proposed attached third floor. My mom is in her 80s. She has a heart condition. She doesn't need the additional stress of noise all day long, since it is a semi-detached. You can hear when the neighbors flush the toilet. So noise carries very well. So I can only imagine the stress of banging and hammering all day long. If this was being proposed on a single home, then the impact would be less. Absolutely. There would still be the impact of the outside sunlight and potential privacy issues, which I know some of the other neighbors have as well. But it's not a single home, it's a semi-detached. My mom also will not authorize for any work to be done on her side of the property line, including her roof, which could be challenging to build a structure that's attached to another home. On an overall, this proposal does not to be an appropriate change to the development of the site itself, the neighboring lands, and the neighborhood. One question I would also have is, would the committee's decision be based on conditions to be reviewed by Toronto Building and any other regulatory bodies for the structural integrity? And if approval were to be granted, who would be liable for any potential structural damages that may occur in the future due to this structural change, which may take several years to reveal itself after the fact? And the one question I do have to the applicant would be, why not extend into the backyard or build something on the garage side, as they've started to do on some garages and homes on Ellsworth Avenue? Thank you so much, committee.
Hello, can you hear me? Perfect. Yes, my name is Linda Scorlon. I'm here with my mother, Pierina Scorlon, who resides at 95 HOCKEN Avenue. Sorry, 97 HOCKEN Avenue, excuse me. So good afternoon. Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman and fellow committee members. Understanding the variance may seem minor, the impact of this addition to the adjacent neighbors is much bigger. Respecting the City of Adjustments overview, our concerns are as follows. The impact of the third floor addition to sunlight, shadow, effect, and privacy. Our home, 97 HOCKEN, sits east of 95 HOCKEN. Based on how the sun rises, it will create a shadow effect throughout the entire morning into early afternoon, impacting her garden, her vegetable garden, and limiting direct morning sun in our backyard. In response to the cover letter dated March 9th by Jonathan Hatch from 95 HOCKEN, they indicated, to quote, there are minimal shading impacts to the north. However, as the homeowner to the east of the project, it severely impacts my enjoyment of natural sunlight and my gardening. Another big concern with the building is the impact to my walkway. The walkway is limited in size and is my sole passage from the back of my home to the front. The proposed third addition plan shows that they have extended the third floor outside the original footprint of the home, which increases the overhang of the proposed dwelling, which possibly can impact my pathway. This will potentially cause safety-related concerns such as ice buildup, drainage, and a wind tunnel effect, and a day-long shadow will be cast. Privacy is a key concern as well. The third floor addition, along with the proposed third floor balcony, can oversee the neighbor's entire backyard, including my side door. This allows for zero privacy for me. I do appreciate the letters of support. The obvious must be stated. One is on the street south of HOCKEN, and the majority are not within the vicinity and has zero impact to them. As per the research data submitted, not one dwelling comprises of a semi-detached home with a similar proposed design. The impacts of the character of the neighborhood is not desirable. It erodes the aesthetics of the existing dwelling, which is a semi-detached home. It is out of character and no precedent on the street when comparing existing and similar semi-detached homes. Due to the concerns with the building and its impact, if this were to be approved, we ask the committee if there are any additional safety-related conditions that they could impose or on any potential approval. Toronto Building still has powers to approve or refuse things as per the building code. Can we have some additional guidance and assistance from them, especially the concerns about the walkway and the potential impact of the overhang and drainage? That could possibly need further review, and Toronto Building may be in the position to help with this. Thank you for your time and listening to our concerns, which, as we mentioned, a minor variance with a large impact to their direct neighbors.
Thank you.
Of course. First, one of the items that was discussed was the potential a zoning variance for height. There is no zoning variance for height. This is a zoning compliant house in relation to height. In relation to some of the items that are outside of the committee's is construction. So as you know, this will go through city building inspections. It'll go through a building permit review, and inspectors that will be on site during the course of construction, as well as engineers will be involved during the course of the review. And the builders and the owners have all, when we've discussed with them, would be more than happy to continue to engage in dialogue with the neighbors to ensure this is a safe site. In relation to drainage and roof issues that were addressed, again, these will also be discussed at length during the building design and review process. However, we have designed the roof to slope towards the westerly side, away from the attached neighbor. So the impacts to the actual roof should be reduced, and that was done very specifically. And then in relation to shading and the question of a rear addition. So I'm going to start with the rear addition. We did consider putting a rear addition. In fact, that was the first proposal we discussed. However, you can see from the rear yard, from the garage to the front of the, to the rear yard, it's really not very far. It's only just under 35 feet. So it's not a particularly big rear yard. And because of the way that the topography works is it slopes down towards the rear lane. So this is a north-south facing house. So any addition towards the rear during the winter months and the summer months would actually cast larger shadows onto both of the rear gardens. And like I said, we recognize that there were gardens back there that the neighbors enjoyed, as well as the southerly face is going to be the primary light source for most of the houses. So they were very cognizant of that, which is why we proposed it at the third floor level. The third floor level, because it's on the northern half of the house, and you'll see 97 extends beyond the rear yard, and we're in line with 93, is that any shading effects would actually be on top of their roof. 97 doesn't have any windows that face 95. And so you would be shading a walkway that has no windows. So in effect, I would say that the walkway would actually become freer of debris and rainwater, because now we can actually direct the rainwater where we need it to. So we believe that the application, because we didn't apply for a height variance, it's a simple application. It actually is the least impactful in terms of shading effects. And we believe that the rear yard proposal would actually be much greater. In regard to privacy issues, currently, if you're at the second floor level, you do get a full view of the rear yard. So really the discussion is about mostly the decks towards the rear. So we have proposed privacy fences both on the east and westerly sides, if you were to flip to some of the floor plans. So they're already on the proposal. So we did have privacy in mind, but we recognize it's not a complete solution, but it is what we can propose. We didn't propose a huge deck off the rear. It's a very modest deck. This is a multi-generation family that's trying to stay in Toronto. So we're trying to create room for both the grandparents and the parents with new children. So they need a little bit of outdoor space. And so this is a very modest deck that we proposed. And then in relation to some of the characteristics of the neighborhood. So this is a mixed street. There's modern homes, there's old Victorian homes, and then there's these homes, which are these 1950s style homes. And we believe that this is just a very simple addition towards the on top. We're using a simple siding that I don't believe is going to be out of characteristics with the garages that flank the North Street or the numerous other houses with siding. Oh, I believe asking for just a simple GFA variance and the simple parking variance at the rear is a very modest proposal. And I believe that we do meet the intentions of the bylaw. And I would ask for your approval.
Yeah, I've got a question.
Of course.
So the plans indicate that there are going to be 2 units in this semi. Can you clarify what actually that means?
Yeah, so the grandparents and the children, or sorry, I should say the new parents that have a child, and hopefully more on the way, want to move in with the grandparents, who are Edward and Margaret, of the owners of this home. So what they're hoping to do is have 2 families living in this, all in the same family. So that's the reason why there's a ground floor and basement unit and a second floor and third floor unit. So you can see that if you were to go to the second floor plan, the original second floor is being kept entirely. The ground floor plan is being kept majority. And the only thing that's really changing is the new third story with a kitchen is being added to facilitate that new unit that can have a family in it.
So is this in effect creating a second suite or a 2 dwelling unit semi?
It would be a second unit, yes, an accessory unit, if you will.
So is that something
that's permitted within the bylaw?
And does it fit the, is there a GFA criteria in terms of the second suite aspect?
Well, it meets the minimum code requirements for a second suite, which is around just under 600 square feet, if my memory serves me. So this is a modest addition for a family. Sorry, I'm not sure if that answered the question. So it does meet the code requirements for an accessory unit.
Okay, so under the purpose of the application, there's no mention of a second suite or second unit. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's because, I mean, that's that's a zoning compliant element. So we're only showing the proposal, which is really the third story, which is what the request is for.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that Mr. Hatch has got quite a constrained problem here. It's a constrained site. It's a small existing building, and I wholeheartedly support his objective to provide a multi-generational home, all of which I think are constraints for him to work with. My problem here is with the ultimate solution, and I think we have to remember that the official plan in this case talks about changes are to be into a neighborhood are to be sensitive, gradual, and fit the existing physical character of the neighborhood, and that they're to reinforce the existing physical character, including such items as heights, massing, scale, density, and dwelling unit. I think in this particular case, the second or the addition to the top of an existing semi-detached is completely out of place. It looks awkward. It looks like an afterthought. It's I can understand the objections of both of the neighbors, both the attached semi and the other neighbor. They're concerned that it detracts from their homes, and I would agree with them. I think it does. I think the problem here is if in fact the desire is to have a multi-generational home, which will require an expansion of this house, it needs to be accommodated in a way that's more sensitive to the community. I do not support this solution at all. And I think you would find that in most cases, the committee does not support major changes to semi-detached buildings where that change has a huge impact on the attached semi-detached dwelling.
Yeah, I would echo exactly what Carl has spoken about. I mean, if you look at the variances being requested, frankly, are fairly modest. And this street, if you look at the street, I think it is true. It's a very eclectic street. It's a mix of a variety of different facades and different types, and the neighborhood even of itself has a lot of different types of dwelling units in it. But the difference here, as Carl points out, is that you have a proposal on a semi with an adjoining dwelling, and if we talked a little bit, or the applicant and some of the opponents talked about maybe going out the back, and I think the massing at the front and the impact on the facade and its relationship to the adjoining semi is just, I think the massing and the visual and the impact on the facade is just too great. That it's frankly it's a little insensitive to the adjoining semi, and I think maybe if they wanted to move the massing towards the rear and in the back, I mean, that sounds like it might be a little bit more palatable to us and to the community. But the way it's formed right now, I agree with Carl. I frankly can't support it given the opposition from the neighbors and frankly the visual impact on the street and the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I would agree with all of those comments. I just feel it does not fit in. And when you look at the rear, I think that third story has really significant negative impacts on privacy and overlook in the rear yard.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the application be refused.
Yes, I'm here, Mr. Chairman. Nelson Espinola as the agent.
Mr. Chairman, the only question I have is I gather through negotiations with the planning department, there's some planting that's been placed in front of the entrance to the basement, and basically it just says they're evergreen trees. I'm wondering if the applicant could give us an indication of how high that planting is from the discussions he had with planning, because I personally think we should be putting a condition in about that screening, because it was an important point of discussion with the planning department. I'd either proposed that we add assuming we approve the application, that we add a condition that you build substantially in accordance with the site plan, or that we be more specific about what that planting is, because trees could be anything. And I wasn't part of the negotiation. I just wonder what was discussed.
Height of the trees were not discussed, but it was supposed to be to a certain height that it would hide the basement walkout at the front. So I'm thinking approximately 6 feet high. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Like I was saying, we're thinking of trees that are approximately 6 feet high or so, so that it would not block the window at first floor level. So 6 feet would seem to be a good height for these trees.
So if there were a condition placed on an approval, if there was an approval, that there be 2 meter high evergreen planting along that that stairway, that would be agreeable to you?
Yes, I would. Yeah, that'll be fine.
Thank you. Thank you. My only concern is that it appears that's the condition under which planning department was prepared to support the application. So I'm in your hands if there's a better way of actually reflecting that in any decision. No, they haven't, but they did in fact ask the applicant to do that. What if it said provide evergreen planting as shown on the site plan? Would that be satisfactory? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring forth a motion to approve the application subject to the transportation services condition about retransferring the parking license, and a condition that says that evergreen planting to be provided in front of the basement entrance as shown on the site plan that's before us today. I think really the planning department is really quite consistent in being opposed to providing direct entrance to basement from the front yard. And in this case, it appears that there's a constraint. There aren't many other options, and they've negotiated this as an alternative way of protecting the streetscape. And I think that we should be respecting that. So with that condition and the transportation services condition, I think that the project fits in reasonably well with the community. I wish it didn't have a flat roof because the neighborhood is predominantly pitched roof, and this really stands out with the flat roof. But I don't think that it is that large a concern, and there haven't been objections that the neighborhood itself is concerned with that as well. So my conditions would be simply the transportation services one and the one about planting.
Is it wrong? Oh.
You're in. This one maybe.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me now? Okay, I'm so sorry about that. Technical difficulties. My name's Tanya Gort, and I am the homeowner. Thank you for hearing me.
I have a question. Yeah, I've got a question on the soft landscaping in the rear yard. It looks like what you're proposing is going to make the issue of the soft landscaping worse than what it is currently, because you're proposing to make the garage larger than the existing garage. Is there no way to actually increase the amount of soft landscaping in the rear yard?
Well, I mean, there's grass on both sides of the path that goes from my back deck to my garage. And obviously I need a path. I can't walk through the grass. I can tell you that my house is much smaller than most of the houses on the street because I haven't built an extension out at the back. And my soft landscaping, even with the extended garage, will be greater than a lot of the homes on my street.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I'm happy to put forward a motion. I was looking at the location map, and it does appear that the backyards in most of these homes on this area is actually quite small, and you know, I appreciate the constraints there are in terms of adding more soft landscaping. So we always get, when we see 20% when it's supposed to be 50%, it always gets our interest. But I think there's mitigating circumstances in this case, and I think it's a reasonable proposal, and I'm prepared to put a motion forward to approve this application.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Yujia Hu. Yeah, I'm the agent for 574 Dundas Street West. Okay, so we were having some difficulties that we still need to communicate with the zoning examiner. We are only proposing the exterior of fire staircase to be reconstructed, but it was encroached into the side yard easement. So we still might have some changes to that stairs, but this hearing is not nothing to do with the stairs. It's about the parking spaces. The zoning examiner want us to hear for the existing units in the house. They are existing. We are not changing anything, but just need to hear for there's no parking space in the property, so that's what we are here for. Sorry, it's a bit confusing. Yes.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Based on your presentation, it sounds as though the side entrance, which was the issue that your neighbor was concerned with as well, that still isn't resolved. And if I heard you correctly, it might extend into the right of way. Are you anticipating that you're going to need further variances?
No, actually, the zoning examiner said it's not allowed, so I don't think any variance will be applied on this one. We were just gonna shrink the stairs back to what it's existing to be. Like, we are not going to encroach into that easement. We just need to change it further. And
So they're in the same location, but they're narrower. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just basically now it has like how do you say, it's higher than the proposing ones, so it has that space for people to travel, but our proposal, it goes down to the floor level and it will block some of the way, and we're still need to change that part and to make it that we don't encroach any part of our stairs into that easement area. But that part we need to communicate with the zoning examiner, and we are not going to apply for any variance.
So just to clarify, what we have before us in terms of plans, they're going to be superseded.
Pardon? Sorry. You mean?
The drawing that we have of the, let me see, the ground floor, that's going to change then. Is that great? You're going to have to change the plan. Yes. Because if I understood correctly, the landing's in the wrong place.
Yes, that's correct. We are still going to change and communicate with the zoning examiner about the proposed staircase.
Okay, thank you.
So, is this currently used as a rooming house? Are there multiple units in the building?
Yes, there are commercial units and 2 residential units currently using.
And the fire stairs, are they going to be, is that door at that going to be the main entrance for those rooming house units?
No, I think
Yes.
the main entrance should, if we are gonna to change the fire staircase to the existing, like how the existing looking like, we're just reinforce it, then the main entrance should be at the back to the house, to the residential house, residential units. You mean the existing one and the proposed one? Yeah. Yeah, you can look at this. This is the proposed one, that's showing on screen, and there was the existing fire staircase that's on the other page, on the page before. Yeah, this one. This is the existing one, and it's already there, and the owner just want to make like the stairs goes down directly, not like this. Yeah, they just changed the shape of the stairs and to make it meet the building code, but now it seems that it's encroached into the easement, so probably we're just canceling that proposal and just reinforce the existing one. We just need to further revise that.
Hello. Hello there, can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Ken Wong. I live in the adjacent property, 570 Dundas Street West. So this is my first time speaking on before the committee, so I'm not aware of any procedures, but I just wanted to explain our situation living next door and how the new owners have converted this unit into a rooming house. So before this building was being converted to a rooming house, it used to have a main entrance on Dundas Street, but it's been taken away, and the new owners have placed doors along the side. So there's a door being placed on the side and the basement, and so before there was a fire escape going down, but now it interferes because of the new doors that are in place. So I oppose this new stair design because I think they're using this as a main entrance. And as you can see from the floor plan, the rooms that are built, like even on the basement, there's like 6 rooms now. I've looked at their floor plan and proposal. 5 on the main floor. There's like 8 on the second floor and 3 on the third floor. So if you add that up, there's approximately almost 20. They've made it almost into like 22 living space for, I assume it's Airbnb rental. And you know what? Because of all this living space, everybody, without the front door entrance, everybody's going through the laneway like it's a walkway or streetway. And they've even placed like lights in the laneway. So I had problems with like noise, garbage, like parties arising from this property. So I don't want to get too out of topic. I just want to speak back to the emergency exit. From what I see, it looks like it's not used in an emergency exit. It's a main entrance to the building. And because of this entrance that they're trying to make, it's just increasing the amount of people going in and out. I had problems with like cigarettes all over the laneway. So I don't want to, like before, I always taken a laid back approach, wait and see, but problem that arises, no one's managing the building, and I always had to go deal with the issue. So I don't want them having any more doors being placed. Like there's a second door floor that's been open out of nowhere, and basement open. It's just not right for something that has almost 22 rooms in a building and having limited access. I feel they should have a main access. If they want to operate like a motel, they should have a main access on the Dundas Street and limit the amount of people going along the sideway, so that would interfere with less of our living space, because we live right my parents' living room just on the second floor of where that emergency exit exists, and people are just hanging out there at night. So it's been crazy for us. But you know what? This is not even the issue. She said that they're not going to build it. They're looking for parking space, but I think this is an issue that has to be dealt with. That's my conclusion. Yeah.
Could you clarify? I gather we have really dated material in front of us. All that we have available are plans that show that there's 3 dwelling units, unless I'm missing something. I don't see anything that shows 22 dwelling units. So I'm not seeing the rooming house. You may have more updated information.
I'm sorry there, Carl. I've downloaded it on the City of Toronto website, and it shows how many rooms are on the floor plan. It shows 6 on the basement, and sometimes they call it offices. I don't know, 5.
Yeah, I've got, yeah.
1 store.
Yeah, and then you mentioned, my question was, you mentioned that there used to be an entrance at the front and there isn't any longer. The proposal, well, it's not a proposal. The drawings that we have show that there's a retail store on the front with, that's not there anymore?
No, that's correct. So when the new owners bought it, they've taken over the property, and I don't know, I wasn't aware of all these procedures. So like, I don't want any conflict with the neighbor, but it's been.
No, I'm just trying to, I appreciate your point's well taken. My only, I'm just trying to clarify, there's no entrance on the front of the building, and
Not
the building
anymore.
is, okay, and the building is proposed to be all residential units. Is that correct?
No, they have a store on the main floor, which.
How do you get into the store on the main floor?
It's no, right now that's the front door is all store. There used to be a stairwell that goes up to the second floor along the side. They've taken that away. So now all the building to the second, third floor, first floor goes along the side. That's my assumption. I've never entered their building, but I've been looking at the floor plan.
Okay, what the applicant told us before you spoke was that the side entrance isn't going to work anymore because the fire escape landing is not correct. And in answer to one of the questions that was posed, she said that all the entrance to the dwelling units will be from the back of the building. I gather that exacerbates your concern. That doesn't make it any better.
I don't have any problem with the back, actually, but that used to be their emergency exit. I'm not too sure how that works.
I'm not sure how they're going to make it work either, but I just wanted to know what you wouldn't have as much concern than if the main entrance was from the back of the building.
No, I wouldn't have any concern, actually, because they wouldn't be hanging around the laneway. The laneway is adjacent where I live. If they go in and out through the back, I have no problem with that.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
Sorry, before we leave this, Carl, I'm just going to build on what you. So I'm looking at the basement plan. So I'm confused now too. The basement plan seems to have, that we have in front of us, have stairs leading to, in the front. Is it stairs leading to an entranceway in the front? Is that, am I reading that, or have I got that inversed? Go up, Bram. Yeah, go right there. So you see that set of stairs? Is that on Dundas, or is that in the rear?
That's the rear of the building. I'm sorry.
That's the rear of the building.
Dundas is the other end of the drawing. If you could scroll up. That's Dundas there.
Right,
Okay. Of the drawing.
So that walkout to the basement is still there in the rear? Does anyone know?
Like I said, a lot of construction's been done. Yeah, I'm here, Larry. I don't want to say too much. Like, a lot of construction, I feel, is done inside, and these owners, they're in the renovation business and running a business to do rooming house for profit. So, you know what? It came to this point where I had to deal with like garbage and everything, and this is why I came up like. I didn't want to speak on behalf of the committee even, but I feel I have to in order to avoid future conflicts. Yes. Oh, that's a good question. Well, before they used to have that emergency stairs like ours equivalent, but they altered it so that there was a second entrance going up. But now, so I had to deal with the garbage issue and the cigarettes and everything. I spoke with the city. Like there's no one managing that unit, so I had to take matters into myself because they weren't taking me serious. I placed I went to the city hall and asked them, and I was able to put up a fence less than 7 feet on my property, on my side of the property. So a lot of the garbage issue has been resolved. So, and because of the COVID lockdown, there's not as much traffic right now as previous, but I know when that is gone, it's going to come back. So they have a problem, I think, with the issue with that escape ladder. There's no one going up because they cut it off. It's blocking the walkway because I placed I closed off a fence on the half of my laneway. Yeah, so I'm not too sure if I explained it clear enough. I mean, visually it's better. I have pictures, but it's not looking good in the laneway there. It looks like a mess. Constructions, I see wires. It doesn't look professional. But like I said, they're doing this for the purpose of rental units out. The owners don't live there.
Yes. Okay, so now for the entrance to the first floor, I think people could enter from both side yard and rear yard, but I can't say like which one is the main entrance. But I think like yeah, it really depends on like where they would want to enter. And for the units, there's only 2 residential units. One on the 2nd floor, and one is on the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor. So there's 2 residential units, and the rest are the commercial units. Let's see. Yeah. You mean the designer or? Uh, yes. Uh, Sorry, the designer actually she got back to the other country and wasn't able to come back for a long time. And so I'm representing her to come to the committee. But the inside, didn't change anything. It's just we drew as it is. We didn't design anything. We are only doing stairs. From
And
where?
the second part of the question is, how many units are there? Because we've been told there's 22 units, and you've just indicated there's 2 or 3. I don't. This isn't a very well thought out proposal. We don't seem to have the information before us that we need.
There's no like it's not using as a rooming house. I think it's just like a rental. Because when we went there, there wasn't people in all the rooms, and we draw the layout, and it's just a regular units, residential unit with one kitchen. Like
How
you
many
can see from the,
units?
there's
How many
two
units?
units, two
So
residential
2 units and 2 residential units and some offices.
Yes.
I count 3 anyways.
The drawings say 3.
Yeah, I see 3 for sure. And
Yeah.
No, for residential unit, there's only one. The 2 on the second floor. The front there's one, and the second one is at the back. And for the 3rd floor, it's the part of the unit 2.
well, there's a kitchen and dining room on the. Oh,
I think I have. There's an updated plan that has no kitchen and dining on the 3rd floor. There's only one on the 2nd floor.
Mr. Chair, I think I'm a little bit concerned that we're, as a committee, we're trying to deal with an application for which we don't have complete or accurate information. And I think that puts us at a disadvantage to be able to make any kind of determination on this application. I don't know what my colleagues feel.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that what is before us is not actually, the reality is not what they're claiming, at least in the purpose of the application. And so my view is that I would refuse this application. This is not what it seems to be.
I agree totally. I'm concerned that to both points that have been made, we don't have the information here to make a good decision. We don't have correct information, and we're wasting time. And we've got a lineup of people who have prepared their applications waiting for us to deliberate. I agree with Mr. Solomon. I favor turning the application down.
So I'll move a motion to refuse the variances.
Good afternoon. This is Raad Rawi. I'm the agent and the designer for the project, and I have the owner at a social distance from me in the second room. I might ask him if we need anything. Yes, thank you very much. Our variances are five variances. I would like to explain them into details. Each two are connected and one is separate from the others. The variance came in once we are proposing to increase the height of the attic space in the third floor and to allow for a headroom. This triggered variances number 3 and 4, which is here maybe written 6 and 7, but they are 3 and 4. The first variance is because we raised the front and rear walls of the third floor attic to become a usable space. The headroom is to be sufficient. The wall height on both of them became 9 meter instead of 7.5 meter, which is not in compliance with zoning bylaw. Here I would like to explain that the total height of the building is not changed, nothing changed to the roof. It's only the walls, instead of inclined walls, it became vertical walls. So the total height is measured from the established grade to the height of the wall. So this is the first one. And the second one, because of this, the gross floor area increased accordingly by an amount of 9% or 31 square, almost 31 square meter to 30.97. And you can see from the lot size, which is only 342 square meter, this is a small amount of an increase, which we are asking for due to this change to make a more usable space in the third floor. These two variances are related. Variances 1 and 2 are also related. While we submitted for zoning certificate with the city staff, we were advised that we are allowed to do a rooming house per the zoning bylaw. So the same area we are adding in the third floor, we applied as a rooming house. It's currently it's existing 2 dwelling units legally there on the house, and it's also legal to add a rooming house. So we proposed 4 rooming rooms, and the maximum allowed is 15% from the lot area, and now we are proposing 19.6%, an increase of 4.6% only, or an amount of 15.7 square meter total area because of this rooming house. And because of the rooming house, the second variance came in as the parking space requirements are not met. 1 parking spaces will be required for 4 rooms. We don't have this. It's an existing condition. So as you can see, 2 variances are related to the increase in the gross floor area in the third floor, and 2 are related to the converting it to a rooming house. The 5th and last variance is an existing condition, the side yard setback at the third floor from the neighbor to the north, which is 76 RONCESVALLES. We have only 0.3 meter, while the zoning bylaw calls for 0.45 meter. This is an existing condition. We didn't ask, we didn't encroach into this variance. We have reviewed the staff comments, mainly the planning staff asking for privacy fences for the balconies if the committee decides to approve, and we are accepting this. And for the forestry, they are asking for a application permit for injury or removal of a tree. We don't intend to do any damage or injury for a tree, but we'll do the application, we'll protect the tree, and we'll follow with the forestry arborist and the staff to make sure that we meet their requirements. And also we reviewed, yes, We have comments from the neighbors. We respect them and we will listen to them. And the abutting neighbors, 72, and the rear neighbor, 158, they are supporting the application. We have 76, 78 are against, and we read their report, and will be ready to answer them once they provide their consent. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? So I'm Rufak Mazumdar. I'm with my wife, Jeanette Lees. We live at 76 Roncesvalles, adjacent to the north. We're a family of 4 residential. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. We are opposed to the application by 74 Roncesvalles. We want to be clear that we do support housing and density and renovation and balconies. However, we believe the extension and enlargement indicated by this proposal adversely affects our property and the character of the neighborhood in general. I understand the committee wants to be satisfied with that before they approve applications. We believe the application sets a precedent for future large backyard builds and balconies. So if you project to page 3, and I've tried to draw it as best as I can, these plans involve 3 new balconies in the back, plus 2 new balconies in the front. 2 of the backyard balconies will be large, so the elevated ground floor balcony and the second floor balcony. So we estimate a 14-foot depth based on the plans on the website. So a large footprint on the yard, which is of modest size. Backyard balconies of this depth and height are not generally typical and usually of a more moderate size. The second floor balcony will have a significant overlook on us and other properties. So we could have rooming house residents on the second floor that can view into our house, our child's bedroom, the backyard where young kids play, and where we enjoy the environment. We're happy that the city has mandated privacy screens, so that's good, but the privacy screens alone will not address other issues. So there is a potential for noise. These 5 balconies with 3 in the back and the 2 large ones can accommodate large and simultaneous gatherings and parties. So the noise could carry throughout the entire block and impact the quiet residential neighborhood. These balconies are also imposing on us in terms of view and light from the south face. The 3rd floor addition referred to in variances 1, 3, 4, and 5 was built during the spring 2020 lockdown without a permit. And it's basically already taken our view from our office as shown in submission. So further light reduction is not desirable. We are also concerned that approval of this application will encourage development and backyard builds, which is counter to an element of the official plan, which stresses green space. So there is a house of apartment buildings behind us at 158 Marion that just submitted a committee application as well on March 5th. And they're one of the ones that wrote a letter of support. So I believe they may be monitoring what's happening to also build up and out. The one next door also is it's a house of apartment buildings, and the owners of both of these houses don't actually live in these houses. So page 6 has signatures illustrating neighbor concern for these plans from residential homeowners and tenants. So signatures that are representative of Roncesvalles, Marion, and Pearson, so the 3 streets that are affected. There are 4 letters of objection, including ours. The neighbor hasn't talked to us or other residential homes in the neighborhood about this application or the variance. It seems like they're trying to maximize rental income and let the community deal with the impact. The only time that one of the owners, Shadi Shahada, did speak to us, they wanted to use their property to erect scaffolding, but they didn't tell us that they're planning to do the work that is now being addressed by the variances, so the increase in the 3rd floor height. We have listed compromise solutions in the submission. We would like to work with and be friendly with this neighbor. So we would like to see the 2nd floor balcony eliminated in the design. This would be a significant improvement to the plans for us. We would also like to see reduced depth of the elevated ground floor balcony, backyard balcony to limit overlook. This would leave ample balcony space for them based on their plans. So there would still be 4 to 5 new balconies remaining. It wouldn't impact their living space. It would minimize the intrusion and noise potential for our neighbors from party balconies and not set as big a change in precedent. Finally, I want to note some concerns that are out of scope of the committee adjustment, but that relate to 4 of the 5 variances. We do have fire and building safety concerns. The building code analysis attached has identified issues with fire alarms, safe exits, and the combustibility of the material that was used in the work that they did. And we're worried because there was a rooming house fire at 70 Roncesvalles a couple of years ago that caused a fatality and almost spread. And so certainly I'm worried about the safety of my family and young children if these variances are approved based on the work already done, because the fire could spread easily to our house based on how close the 3rd floor build is to us now. We are grateful that the owner has committed to tree protection. So, yes. Okay, so grateful for the tree protection. Just to finally want to point out 2 inconsistencies in their application. I'm not sure why the basement addition underneath the deck is not included as part of the gross floor area calculation in variance 4, number 1. And number 2, argue that the variances are not necessarily minor just because of the change not being sensitive and gradual. So the 3rd floor now being used for living instead of an attic, going from a single person home to 16 people, and a change in the look of the house from the front and the back to the balconies. So appreciate the opportunity to speak, and that summarizes my submission.
Yeah, I'm at 80 Roncesvalles, and it's a single family home. Yep. Oh. Natalie, my name's Natalie Sidoric, and I'm at 80 Roncesvalles. And it's a single family home. The area is mostly single family homes. There are some homes. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Yeah, there are some homes with a couple units, but I feel like a rooming house doesn't really fit the character of the neighborhood. There is one rooming house at the corner, and it had a lot of problems. I mean, a long time ago, we had cops come to our driveway because there was someone with a gun in the unit. And there also has been a fire a couple years ago where someone died and the house almost spread to other homes on the street. So safety concerns are at the top of mind. I'm very concerned about having more rooming houses. I think rental units also make more sense just for the fabric of the community and people who tend to be looking. I'm a real estate agent, and I know a lot of people, demographic, that look in this area. Hello? Yeah, okay. And yeah, I also am concerned that they did the work without getting permits, because I'm not sure of the quality of the construction and the fire code safety involved. Like, there were no permits gotten for all the work that was already done. So that's a big concern for me as well. Yeah, in summary, that's basically it. I'm not as opposed to like less people living in the house. I think a couple units or one per floor, it makes sense, but a rooming house to me does not make sense. Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. First, regarding the balconies, all the balconies in the proposal are meeting the zoning bylaw. None of them is not in compliance with the zoning bylaw. the front balconies and the rear balconies. This is not part of the variance application, but we would respect the neighbors. I discussed with the owner while we were listening, and we are willing to reduce the size of the second floor balcony, which is the most effective. The one in the rear is the most effective one, and might affect the neighbors. The neighbor to the north, actually, he has a third floor balcony, which is exactly, we match it. We are doing matching this one, but we are willing to reduce the second floor balcony, which the committee wishes to impose this as a condition on us. This is regarding the balcony issue. The other issue is regarding the rooming house. It's also allowed by the zoning bylaw, and this is why I separated the variances. This was actually related to the city vision and development for this area, and this was encouraged by the city staff for us while we were doing the zoning review. Again, which the committee decides to negatively provide comments, we'd recommend that separating the third floor addition from the rooming house to give a separate decision on these variances, not as a full, but we would recommend and we would prefer to have it approved. The third one is related to the Ontario Building Code, the fire. This is why we are here as engineers. We were hired after the fact, but we'll make sure that all the applications, all the permits will be in accordance to Ontario Building Code, fire and safety, all the latest requirements, and it will be reviewed by the city staff. Inspection will be done throughout the process, and we'll make sure that this house is safe for everybody. It is the first thing we are looking for, of course, as engineers. The last thing is the gross floor area in the basement. It is not included according to the zoning bylaw. Anything below the grade, below the established grade of the basement will not add. So what we did and what was reviewed by the zoning staff is actually what are the variances. And we respect the neighbors and would like to work with them thoroughly after getting the approval. And I will make sure that the owner will be in touch with them and make sure that they are satisfied with everything before approval and after construction as well. Thank you.
Can you did you have the zoning confirmed by the city? Have they confirmed that the size of the second floor balcony meets the zoning bylaw? Because normally zoning bylaws have a limitation of 4 square meters on a balcony such as this. I'm surprised you don't need a variance for that, but has that been confirmed by the city?
Yes. Yes, we got this reviewed many 3-4 rounds, and this is what we get from the city.
Okay, and the other thing is just a point of clarification. The planning department's report is a bit confusing. There's in the body of the report, they talk about screening the second and third floor balconies with privacy screening along the north and the south edges of those balconies. The recommendation only talks about providing screening on the south edge of the balcony. I'm assuming that the recommendation is supposed to say north and south edge of the balconies. And I just wanted to point out that that's my understanding of what this recommendation is. And does that pose any problems for you?
Yes, I mean, actually, if you see the plans, the balconies are towards the south neighbor who is not in a position. Most of the balconies are not towards the north neighbor. If you see from the floor plan, or it's clear, or the site, it's clear we are getting the other side, and the neighbor is happy with that. He's not, so it would be on the left side, which is far away from our north neighbor. But anyways, we are willing to do privacy fence all around the 3 sides. Even the rear fence will be all with the privacy. We'll make sure that will happen.
Okay, thank you.
No, I'm just waiting to go into committee, Chair. So I'll kick off, and first of all, thanks to the folks who participated in their concerns. They're important ones. But this rooming houses are permitted in this area. This is a street. Well, I appreciate it's a very unusual street in the sense it has much residential on one side and has commercial and retail on the other side. It is a major thoroughfare. It is an area that is proximate to transit, high order transit with the streetcar and walkability to a number of places that I think people that live in a rooming house would, in some cases, it would be good for them to be proximate to that. I think the variances that are proposed, frankly, are relatively modest. They don't appear, in my view, to be excessive. I did hear the applicant agree that he would reduce the size of the balcony. I think if we were as a committee to support that, I would suggest that we make that a condition. And also the condition that the balconies are screened around the entire perimeter. But, you know, again, we're adding rental accommodation to a city in an area that desperately needs rental accommodation. In my view, I know this area fairly well. It is an area that can support folks who need rental accommodation. And I think for those reasons, I will be supporting this one. Yes. No, fair enough. But if the applicant has agreed to do that as a matter of good faith, we can put a condition in, I think, and whether it's legally binding or not, I think we should, if we think that makes some sense, it doesn't hurt to do that.
Would it make a difference if we could secure from the applicant today what that reduced size would be and he volunteered it and we could put the number in the decision? But he's offering it. But if I know we don't encourage people to come in with revisions, but we have on many occasions somebody's come in like this and said, okay, there's been concern about this, that, and the other thing, and therefore I propose that although I was going to do this, I would do something less, and then we reflect that in the decision. I agree with Larry. If there's an offer to reduce the balcony, I'd like to take him up on it. And I also appreciate your caution to us. I'm just wondering if the applicant could suggest a proposed size, and if I would recommend we incorporate it in our decision and take the chance.
So my comments are that while a rooming house might be permitted use here, I think it still should fit in with the surrounding neighborhood. And so when I look at the rear yard, I see that there are significant impacts based on what's being proposed. Three large balconies, especially the ground floor and the second floor, very large, where you could have then many people outdoors, and it then creates a lot of negative impacts for everyone else in the backyard, in the neighboring houses. So I do have concerns with this application.
So, I mean, again, Chair, did you want to weigh in, or are you? No? Then in the absence of that, I'll make a motion, and then maybe we can have a vote on it. But I will move to approve this application, subject to the planning conditions for screening of the balcony and around all sides. Urban forestry number 2, and I totally understand the caution that staff has made about the size of the balcony, but I'm prepared to at least put a motion forward with a bit of a risk that we put a condition in that the balcony, the first floor balcony, be reduced in size by approximately 1/2.
Do you mean the second floor balcony or the first?
Oh, pardon me.
You mean the
second floor balcony? Second floor balcony.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Pardon me.
Okay, I'd support that. Mr. Chairman, could we clarify that the planning department condition is for screening on the north and the south edge? Because that's what the body of the report says, although the recommendation only mentions one side.
Yeah, I put it around the perimeter.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Thank you. Six.
Hi, my name is Joe Dome, 1101 Steeles Avenue West, agent to the owner. Thank you. I'd like to begin with some context. The existing dwelling has 2 legal units. The owner purchased this property in May of 2019, and his mother had moved into the main unit while she was sick with cancer. She sadly passed away in July of that year, and the owner had made the decision to plan to move himself and his family into the dwelling while renting out the second unit. Therefore, he proceeded with plans to add and to renovate the house with the purpose of creating more comfortable and desirable spaces for family living. We had previously come to committee back in August after the hearing had been delayed from April due to COVID. This was a larger proposal which was not approved, and there were a number of neighbors in opposition, as they still are today, and we'll get to hear their views. The owner has received 19 letters, as you mentioned, of support for the larger proposal, which are still relevant given the new smaller proposal here today. For this application, the owner has made significant reductions in both the massing of the dwelling and the number of variances to address both the committee and neighbor concerns. We're asking for only 4 variances, 3 of which are existing conditions. Those would be numbers 1, 3, and 4, pertaining to the north side yard setback, front yard setback, and driveway width, respectively. The only variance that is not an existing condition is variance number 2, pertaining to the new proposed FSI of 0.75 over 0.6. The reductions that have been made include eliminating the previous depth variance, eliminating the side main wall height variance. It was reducing it from 8.83 meters to under the bylaw, reducing the FSI from 0.88 to 0.75, and stepping back the dwelling by 5 feet on each floor to the rear, as is clearly shown on the side elevations A309 and A311. If you can, yeah, a little further. Yeah. Previously, the design of the 3 floors extended to the full depth, whereas now there is no depth variance, and the upper 2 floors are significantly set back even further. I'd also like to point out that there is no 3rd story variance, as a 3rd story is allowed as of right. There's also no height variance, as the proposed dwelling is 0.25 meters under the bylaw, or rather 0.22 meters under the bylaw height. The concerns from the neighbors that the FSI is out of character or much larger than what has been allowed on the street is simply inaccurate. For example, on the street itself, 159 Winona, which is a flat roof 3-story dwelling, was approved for a 0.826 FSI. 68 Winona was approved for 0.95 FSI this year. Furthermore, 130 Benson Avenue was approved for 1.03 FSI in 2019. And in the case of 159 Winona and 130 Benson, these FSIs were approved also with large side main wall height variances as well, whereas we have completely eliminated our prior side main wall height variance. And regarding the existing driveway width, there's no objection from transportation, and the window wells are for the purpose of satisfying the building code for means of egress for the basement portion of Unit 1 and are existing. Transportation has no objections to the driveway or rear parking spaces. The property has 2 current legal parking spots, but due to the previous owner are not in good condition. The parking area currently has overgrowth, which the owner will remove. Additionally, the area where the garage used to be is currently sloped toward the west, and the owner will grade this area in order to restore the 2 east-west oriented parking spots as they are currently designated by the city. The owner will also repair the retaining wall at the rear of the property. Lastly, as was mentioned, we have no objections from planning or transportation on this application, and we feel that the proposal before you today is reasonable and minor in nature and sufficient to balance the need for a comfortable, desirable living space for the owner and his family with a secondary suite while minimizing impact to the bylaw as much as possible. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Right. Mhm.
Just a quick question to the applicant, just to verify, how many units will there be in total in this building?
2.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Thank you. My name is Helen Loja, and I'm here to assist my parents, Apostolos and Vula Prokos, who reside at 96 Winona Drive. Their property is directly to the south and across the mutual driveway to the subject property and would be directly impacted by the proposed renovation. Our comments with attached photos related to this hearing were provided in our letter dated March 8th to the Committee of Adjustments, and we object to the proposed renovation and bylaw variances, and we do not believe this is a minor variance. The following summarizes our concerns. First, the mass, depth, and height of the proposed renovation is not consistent with and will affect the built form and character of the neighborhood and the aesthetics of the streetscape. 98 Winona Drive currently is noticeably taller than the adjacent properties, and increasing the total height to a towering 9.18 meters is incompatible with the existing single-family homes in the neighborhood. The subject property already has minimal front yard and side yard setbacks. Second, the increase in height further raises concerns regarding our long-standing amenities of privacy and access to natural light. Third, the increasing the overall footprint of the property raises concerns about the impact to the environment and the increased risk of runoff drainage and/or flooding issues. Fourth, the proposed floor plan submitted on October 26, 2020 indicates 2 apartments with a total of 7 bedrooms, 4 full bathrooms, 2 kitchens, 2 living rooms, a family room, a dining room, a recreation room, 2 laundry rooms, 2 furnace rooms, and 2 balconies spanning the entire width of the building on the back. This is not consistent or compatible with the existing single-family homes in the neighborhood with respect to its mass, depth, and height. It further raises concerns regarding a potential future intent for increased density through further subdivision of the rental units and the added impact to our privacy. To date, the owner has not moved into the property. Fifth, parking is a concern, especially for those sharing this mutual drive and laneway. This includes the 5 homes at 90, 92, 94, 96, and 98 Winona Drive. Currently, the parking pads identified in the site plan do not exist, and only one car can park in the area intended for turning by all in the laneway. The lack of 2 parking spaces for the existing 2 apartments does not meet the zoning bylaws, and we are concerned about the available parking. 6, access is of concern through the mutual drive as the extension of the structure will extend the tunnel effect created by the current residences of 96 and 98 Winona Drive and increase the potential for property damage. Lastly, although the property owner has submitted 19 letters of support, we believe they should not be considered. They are for the property owner's initial proposed renovation and not this current application. The letter specifically references the first hearing on August 26, 2020, not today's hearing. Rather, we believe greater weight should be given to the concerns expressed by the residents directly impacted by the proposed applications, specifically 100, 96, 94, 92, and 90 Winona Drive, and 79 and 81 Alberta Avenue, whose properties are adjacent to 98 Winona Drive. In closing, we do not believe this application constitutes a minor variance. Along with the reasons outlined, the scale, bulk, character, and style of the proposed construction is incompatible and does not respect the established built form and character of the neighborhood and would erode the aesthetics and streetscape. Thank you for your time.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, could you hear? I'm on my phone now, but you weren't able to hear me before, right? Okay, there's no echo now, right? Okay. Okay, so my name is Nina Viti. My parents are at 100 Winona Drive. I'm just going to, okay, so my parents, who are 87 years old, they and I have been long residents at 100 Winona Drive. It's a two-story single-family home with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We've been there since 1967. We are the neighbors directly adjacent to the north side lot line of 98 Winona Drive. And please take note that the width of our property is 25 feet, which is very restricted as is. Our home will be impacted the most if this project proceeds due to the close proximity of both properties. And a building such as 98 Winona Drive will totally infringe on our sunlight, our view, and our privacy, as our south lot line will be impacted by the build due to the fact that of our 15 windows, 9 are south-facing. These will be blocked. 4 are east-facing. These will be partially blocked, and 2 faced west. So these are serious issues concerning this construction. As mentioned, it is the tallest structure. Can you still hear me? Hello? Yeah, it is the tallest structure, 98, and the largest within a 60-meter radius. Directly across the street, you have 2 schools, a junior public school from JK to grade 6, and Winona grade 7 to 8, and a senior residence, and the rest is all residential. So constructing something of this magnitude will totally enlarge the footprint of the property. It's a major renovation. It doesn't fit the character of the neighborhood, as mentioned by the previous speaker. My parents do enjoy spending time in that south-facing kitchen, and all their other, like their dining room, their living room, and family room will all be impacted by this blockage of light. So as far as with a proposed total of 7 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms, we do not believe that this is minor in any way, and it supersedes what is necessary and reasonable. The minimum required setback is 1.2 meters, and the altered duplex will be 0.5 meters from the north side lot line, and we feel that this will further increase the footprint of the home. So the major concerns are the loss of light overshadowing effect, the intent of the building. It's been a rental property since the owner has taken over after his mom passed away, with our condolences, but it has been just a rental property, and it is generating 2 incomes. It has 2 hydrometers implying occupancy by more than 1 family. We're concerned about the construction damages to our property because we are adjacent to it. In the past, there was one project where by a previous owner where they did stucco renovations to the wall on the north side lot line, and all our cars got damaged with stucco. So something of this magnitude in such a restricted land space is something that we are concerned about. We're concerned about our garden is also at the back, and the cars at the back there regarding exhaust fumes and how they will be parked in a way that they will impede our garden. The front yard setback is 6 meters, but the altered one will be 0.3 meters from the front east yard. And please note that it's been recorded that the existing porch and stairs are outside of the lot boundary and on city property. So we oppose to this build due to many issues. My parents are 87 years old, and a project of this magnitude supersedes what is necessary, as all the other homes on that strip are single-family homes, and this is the intent we feel may be an Airbnb. It can be transient for use as a rooming house, traffic generation on Winona, noise potential with the balcony additions and disturbances resulting from the use of the construction, as well as safety and environmental issues. We're concerned about the height of the roof as well. as regards to hydro and electrical safety and in regards to fire and building safety. So we're very upset about something of this magnitude and residents that have been there a long time, and it will be totally impeding on all their privacy, sunlight, and safety issues. Thank you.
Hello, yes, can you hear me? Yes, I'm Marianne Cattrall, and I live at 104 Winona Drive. And actually, I've written down a summary of my objections. I sent in a written objection letter, but most of the things have already been addressed by the two previous speakers, and I'd just like to say that I concur with all of their points. I guess the main impact that it would have on us would be, and I was concerned mostly about, was the two proposed balconies off the back. That there are no balconies there now, and on a third floor balcony especially, even a second floor balcony, it would affect the privacy of our backyard. We have a nice garden, as well as the property at 100 Winona has a very nice garden, and we like to spend time in our garden, and privacy is a concern. We wouldn't really like to be overlooked too much. Anyway, I won't go any further. I think that's mainly my concern, and just want to reiterate that I do agree with all of the points the other two people have made before me.
So ma'am, you're from.
It's interesting.
Saying if you're talking. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? My name is Vito Caliandro. I live at 108 Winona Drive, and I'm strongly disagreeing with the construction due to the magnitude of the building. I mean, it's already too close to the sidewalk, and it's high enough as it is. As you're coming down the street, that's all you see is this wall. And, you know, it will create more shade and sunlight for the neighbors there, and I'm strongly disagreeing with it. It doesn't fit in on that street. It would be so awkward to have that on, you know, it just does not fit in with the landscape of the neighborhood. And another question, I'm sorry if I ask, because I'm not at home, I'm at work right now, and I don't have the papers in front of me, but how many bathrooms are they putting in on the third floor? Oh, okay. I'm just curious to know that. But I strongly disapprove. All right, thank you.
Hello. Hello, my name is Nicolina Lanny, and we live at 81 Alberta Avenue, which is the property directly behind 98 Winona. So our backyards face each other. Similarly to all of the other speakers, I had my points prepared, but I won't go through all of them. I'm in total agreement with everything that's been said thus far by everybody on Winona. I'll just talk about how it impacts us directly behind them. If you know that area of Toronto, there is a large retaining wall. We are at the base of that retaining wall. The sheer mass of this build and in the depth that it's going back, we have multiple concerns. One, privacy and light. Already, when Kinch McConnell bought the property, he cleared the back of all the trees. And so at night, we can see directly into the house already without it, being set further back like they plan to do, and adding those additional balconies. So that is going to impede the privacy, not only into our backyard, but into the entire back of our house, so that, we can't go from our bedroom to our bathroom now in the evening without being seen from the windows. And that's going to be that much worse with the new build. And then doubly, we're really concerned about the impact that the basement walkout is going to have on our retaining wall. That retaining wall belongs to us. It's our responsibility and our property. When we purchased the home, we had an inspector come in and look at it, and they very specifically told us not to do anything to that wall or touch it. We're worried about flooding concerns, drainage, runoff, on what this build will do to that retaining wall. And Kinch and his team have said on numerous occasions that they'll take care of it, but it's not their responsibility to take care of. And we additionally don't want anything done to that retaining wall without our permission first. And so overall, we, like everybody else, are very much opposed to this build. And also, I just want to add, it was frustrating to me because even though they're saying these are minor variances, when you actually put the two applications beside each other, they're almost identical. And so here we are again, however many months later, kind of contesting the exact same thing again. And so anyways, it's just my added point. Thank you for hearing us out.
Yes, to address comments, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to address the comments from those neighbors in opposition, unfortunately, their contentions involving height, third story, setbacks, and massing refer either to no variances or existing variances, and don't seem to have changed much since the original proposal. I think it was pretty clear when I listed the reductions that have been done to the design, and I don't think that's simply true that nothing has changed since the original application. I've listed the example at 159 Winona, which has a 10-meter main wall height and a third story step back deck, similar to ours, except our second floor deck is step back as well. And issues pertaining to shadows will be limited due to the east-west facing of the building. Furthermore, the front facade has been redesigned to better fit the style of roof. For example, 104 and 106 Winona, just a couple of houses to the north, that roof design has been purposely redesigned to be reminiscent of that. The privacy concerns of the decks are mitigated by the placement of the step-back decks, which are very far in, and the over 30-meter distance to the rear lot line. Also, a number of issues they bring up which pertain to the building code rather than the zoning bylaw. I'd also like to point out that construction will be done with the appropriate care for the neighbors as well. And overall, sometimes, you know, despite good faith efforts to compromise and accommodate for concerns with revisions and agreement with direct neighbors can't always be achieved. Unfortunately, I think that's the case here.
So are there other 3-story buildings on this street?
Yes, there are. Yeah, I have listed 159. Also next door, I think the 2 houses next door to 159 have 3 stories.
Does the zoning bylaw have any limitation on the size of the secondary suite?
No, it's not. We tried to double check with the zoning examiner, so there was no issues with that.
You know, the reason I'm asking is because one of the drawings, I believe it is A101, has a label of duplex on that diagram, and so that's why I'm wondering: are you basically putting in a duplex as opposed to a true secondary suite?
It's already legal 2 units. So that's so the designation is not changed.
Chair, maybe I'll just I think one of the persons that called in had a specific question about number of bathrooms.
Oh, yes.
In the second, I wonder if you could just answer that question for him.
Oh, yes. There's 4 bathrooms total in the whole dwelling. That's 1 for each floor.
A question on the balconies at the back. Would you be open to putting opaque screening on the sides of the balconies on the 2nd and the 3rd floor?
Yes, that would be fine.
Actually, I think it was the neighbor right behind, I think, that was concerned about privacy as too, Nimrod. Would you be open to opaque around the entire perimeter?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I did have some concerns as I was going through the application, trying to understand how it was different than original, but I have noticed that there are fewer variances than were sought previously. And I feel I can support this application if there are the balconies on the 2nd and 3rd floors, if there is opaque screening along all sides of the balconies, on the rear balconies, 2nd and 3rd floors as conditions.
Yeah, I agree. So I and I think a couple of others on today's committee were on committee when this application first came forward, and quite frankly, it was at that time quite large and quite different, and the massing was considerably different. My own view, and I appreciate everybody's concerns and a lot of the very thoughtful and comments that folks have have shared with us. But the applicant has taken what he heard in the first meeting, I think, to heart and gone back and made a series of changes to the application, which may not totally satisfy the neighbors in the neighborhood, but I think has gone a long way to address some of the concerns that were raised in the initial application. As Nimrod points out, the number of variances are considerably less. There's no height variance, there's no depth variance, and frankly, the FSI isn't that dramatically different or higher. I think the applicant has done a pretty good job of listening to what he heard in the first instance and come back with a more reasonable application. I would, just as an aside, someone pointed out it is a little bit disingenuous to bring forward letters of support for an application that was initially brought in August. It has changed, and I frankly have discounted those letters of support for that reason. But otherwise, I would support this application with those conditions that Nimrod mentioned.
I didn't sit on the original panel that reviewed the application, so I was, like Nimrod, trying to go back and forth, perhaps more than he was, in terms of seeing what had changed. And there is a substantial reduction in the number of variances, and even the FSI is now at 0.75, and I believe it was 0.88 originally. I think with the changes that Nimrod has suggested, it's a reasonable proposal, and I would be prepared to support it. The one thing I would like to say, though, is that the people that spoke in opposition oftentimes don't put the amount of effort and time in researching the matter that these people have, and I very much appreciate it. Those were very, very good submissions, well researched, very detailed, and they help us a great deal in coming to an understanding of an application. We're not as familiar with the issues as you people are, and I really appreciate the work that they went to put together their submissions.
So I'll move a motion to approve the variances with a condition that the rear, second floor, and third floor balconies have opaque screening on all sides.
Do you have a height?
I didn't put a height. Would you suggest a height?
Yeah. 1.5
I think
meters.
if you don't have a height, it's meaningless. 1.5 meters is the norm.
Okay. So minimum 1.5 meter high screening, opaque screening on all sides.
Yep.
I'm on the line, thank you. My name is Ivan Franco. I'm from Ivan S. Franco Architect, located at 5359 Dundas Street West, Suite 200.
I'm going to move a motion to approve the variances. There are only two, and I believe that they are minor, so that's my motion.
So I'd second it. Yes, second the motion.
Good afternoon. This is Piper Henderson. I am the owner of 84 Wildwood Crescent. I'm also therefore the applicant as well.
Oh,
Larry, you go ahead.
no, it's okay. I was just going to say, I thought this was a fairly straightforward, very minor variances. As an aside, I thought it was a very thoughtful design as well in terms of the new construction. So I'll move approval. I don't believe there are any conditions, so I'll just move approval of this application.
Yes, I'm here. My name is George Teodosio. I'm the agent for 360 Harvie. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so an application was made for demolishing the existing rear one-story addition and constructing a rear two-story addition, with basement addition included, and also rear ground deck floor, a front basement walkout, and converting the basement into a secondary suite. So, not the last part. So building permit was obtained for the majority of what we see here on these drawings. But during the construction, the owner had a change of mind as to the roof profile and also the use of the basement. So that's what this application for minor variances is entitling. And it's the number one is to allow for pedestrian entrance to be exclusively a secondary suite, which is not permitted in the front wall of the semi-detached house. In this case, we propose that the front entrance be from the front of the house, because there is no access to the back of the house, as this lot is landlocked with zero setback on both sides of the yards, the side yards. Secondly, in a residential zone, we're not allowed to have a platform that's attached to the building without main walls within 1.5 meters of the existing side yard setbacks. But in this case, as we have a front entrance, regardless of whether it's to a secondary unit or not, we would like to have cover over both the main entrance and the walkout to the basement to cover the potential snow accumulation and ice accumulation on those steps. So we request that the canopy be allowed to be constructed within 0.61 meters of the south side lot line. And thirdly, during the construction, the building permit, the latest building permit obtained in September allowed for a height to the front main wall of 8.5 meters, which in the detail that we provided, we had a zero or more or less a very, very shallow parapet. So the builder inadvertently built it a little higher. And we can see that if we go to page, I think the last page, there's a section there. I'm not sure whether we can navigate that while I'm talking, but we can show that later on if that's necessary. Anyway, so now we have an exterior main wall that's a little bit higher. It's 8.94 meters. And this is in keeping with other approved permits in the area. Most recently, 273 Harvie. Again, an exactly same front main wall was approved, 8.94 meters, whereas 8.5 meters allowed. And 10 Summit Avenue, it's not a main wall, but I'm assuming for the side walls, 11 meter height is allowed, and they built a 12.64 meter was approved. And a little bit further on the other side of Rogers Road at 180 Earlsdale, 8.5 meter, again, is the limiting height, but a 9.5 meter height was approved, was allowed. And with that, that is my presentation for today. Thank you.
Yeah. Has the front basement walkout already been built?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I missed. So it was built as a single-family dwelling application, which was building permit, which was approved as far back as March and was revised in September. Yes, it has been as part of the building permit for the single-family dwelling, which was approved in September.
Why would the single-family dwelling have needed a front basement walkout?
The owner initially wanted to use the basement as a studio for herself and have a separate entrance to take stuff to the basement rather than having to go to the house. That was the intention.
Well, my question was maybe an extension of what Nimrod had suggested. My understanding from Mr. Gowling, or the solicitor that's going to speak to us, is that all of the work that is referred to in the application has taken place. So I'd like to know if that's the case. Secondly, you made mention of the fact that the applicant changed his mind after he got the building permit and he wanted to use the basement and he wanted to change the roof. But the building permit was given for another proposal. Was this walkout, which is the point that Mr. Solomon was asking you about, was the walkout part of the original permit? It sounds as though you built something you don't have a permit for, and that you're here now to have us make it legal. And I'm wondering, is that correct?
No, I'm sorry. The front entrance basement walkout was built as part of the permit for single family.
So it was part of the permit.
Yes, sir.
And then why, you mentioned that there's been a change to the basement, the thinking on the basement has changed. So how has that precipitated the variances that you have before us today then?
So instead of using the basement as part of the single family dwelling, we would like to apply for a secondary suite in the basement, which makes the front yard basement entrance as part of this variation request.
Okay, I'm still not clear, but continue and I'll try and figure it out.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Carolyn Ferlano. I live at 358 Harvie Avenue, which is the south side of the property in review. My family has lived here for 25 years. This project actually started in July of 2019 with demos to the interior of the building, and shortly after that, it was ceased due to no permit issued at the time. It started again in April of 2020, unknown to us the impact it would have on our property and our lives. From the beginning of the project, there were concerns with the engineering plans and the damage it could cause to our property, considering the city allowed this project to be built right to the property line. Minor damage did occur and was never acknowledged by the owner or the contractor. During the early stages of the construction, I obtained the city building approved plans through the FIO process to educate ourselves on what was taking place next door. Clearly, the contractor was not following the city approved plans, and these concerns were brought to the attention of the inspector in real time, and our concerns went unanswered. The front porch foundation was poured with an encroachment, and when brought to the attention of Toronto Building, it was cut down, not removed, so the issue is still ongoing with my lawyer and the city. The height of the side exterior walls should have been flagged by the city during the framing inspection and the construction halted, which they were not. The south wall of the building has a 14.5-inch overhang with no LVL support, which is on our side. Whether the height is to code or applying for height variance, this should have been a concern to the inspector and Toronto Building at the time. We had no knowledge of a secondary suite existing until we received the public hearing notice. My husband's a contractor and a framer by trade for 40 years. The issues raised to the city were legitimate as a homeowner and a person of trade questioning the structural integrity of the site that would involve our property. Unfortunately, even with this knowledge and our voiced concern to Toronto Building, the project was allowed to continue. My husband has never seen a construction site be allowed to continue building with various issues outstanding, and the building and the builder can get away with what he has. As you can see from the photos, this project is completed and the project is pretty much drywalled inside. This does not look good to tradesperson and sets a bad example from the city, as he would say he would be shut down in a flash if this was his site and not allowed to continue until it was rectified. I do believe the contractor was not taking our knowledge into concern when he started this project and thought he could bulldoze over the property owners. The contractor builds first. If questioned or issues are raised, the project plans change. I do believe there are 4 different sets of plans throughout this entire building. The project has become nothing of the original plans approved by Toronto Building. There has been poor planning issues with this property. Many portions of the building were constructed, then torn down. Either they weren't up to code, or the plans changed. This is what's been going on for months. They build, they tear down, and they build again. With many issues of this project, including variance, damage, encroachment, 2 police reports for trespassing on our roof, verbal harassment from the contractor and subcontractors, led me to obtain legal counsel and legal costs that I should have never had to occur to protect my property. As this owner has complete disregard for the bylaws in place for us as property owners and our property, there has been negligence on the part of the owner, contractor, Toronto Building, and site inspectors. As this project was Thank you. As this project was completed without a public hearing in which we could have voiced our concerns to the chair and committee, completed before a committee of adjustments had a chance to approve the proposed minor variance, what are you prepared to do moving forward? Thank you for the time.
Oh, I think we're on. Hello?
Aren't they going to go back and forth?
Yes, I am. Kevin Williams. Okay. I live at 362 Harvie, which is the building attached to 360, north of 360. I'm also here with my partner, Melissa. She may speak after this. First, I'd like to point out that the construction, or the proposed construction, which is now more or less complete with framing and drywalling, etc., is not in line with the neighborhood. There are very few semi-detached houses with a basement entrance that is also a rental. Our primary concerns for this is noise and fire hazards. And our other concerns are that the builder has on multiple occasions built a structure to specifications outside of the approved building plans without getting modifications to said plans. Sorry about that. As Carolyn outlined in her statements, we can corroborate such things. The construction was completed on aspects of the building that were not in the permit.
Hello, committee. This is Melissa Meehan. I'm just going to add one other thing. My concern with the front entrance is that it's according to the bylaw, there's not supposed to be a front entrance to the house that's attached to another. And I guess my concern is that if this was approved originally with the permit, why is there a variance requested? And I think that the concern that we have is that most of these things happened before approval or any discussion was made. I think that's the only comment that I would want to make. Oh, yeah, that's it. Nguyen, Nguyen. Yes, it's Melissa Nguyen. Oh, yeah, sorry. Can you hear me better now? Thank you. The only other comment I'd like to add to Kevin's comments is that my concern with the front entrance being on a semi-detached house as ours and is against bylaw, why are we asked, or why is there a request for a variance if it was permitted initially? Currently, right now, the house is constructed and there is no access from the ground floor to the basement. So it's treated already as a secondary suite. And I believe from the latest permit in September of 2020, it clearly states that it should not, a secondary suite has not been approved or permitted. And that's the end of my comment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mona Jackson, and for saving time, basically everything that I was about to mention has already been covered. Thank you. Okay, so my comment was that everything that I was going to mention has already been covered by the other 3 individuals. So in that case, I have nothing further to add.
Chair, can we get Mona's address, please?
I live in Bell River. Mine is one of a financial concern for one of the property owners. Oh, it's 1126 King Louis Street, Bell River, Ontario. No, I do not own property in Toronto. I was a witness to a lot of the building procedures that happened last summer. I was spending time with my cousin who lives at 358. Basically, it was for moral support of the bylaws that were not permitted that I saw last summer while spending vacation time with my cousin and the sorry, a little bit flustered here, the people that were on her roof, and it was basically a moral support.
What is the address of your cousin? What is the address of your cousin?
358 Harvie.
Okay, thank you.
She's the south. I was in her
Okay,
backyard
thank you.
with her.
Yes, thank you. So initially, the building permit was applied for in December 2019, and when I got involved, yes, the interior of the house was gutted, except in a sense that the drywall was removed. So I don't think that that's part of a building permit application request, but I may err here. So that's what the next door neighbor at 258 was referring to when she said that construction starting 2019. So then we applied for building permit in December 2019. We received a building permit in March 2020, and that's when, well, soon after that, construction started. Yes, there were a number of, let's say, encumbrances on the property, and as part of the fence supposed to collapse and what have you. During this construction process, he realized that the front porch needed to be demolished, and yes, that maybe caused additional grief to the owners to see all this happening while they were present in the neighborhood. But the front entrance to the basement was on both building permit versions, the initial version and the revised building version in September. And to allow entrance to the basement, as I said, for personal reasons. Not sure there's anything else I can address that speaks to the variances that we're requesting. And yet, I think the other thing that I saw in the letters that they submitted is that the front porch cover is installed. Yes, that's temporary. A little bit, I should say, in anticipation that this permit, perhaps this request is approved. Again, the comment was made by the panel earlier that perhaps we're asking for a variation that's already been constructed. Yes, we admitted to the fact that the variation for the height was approved to 8.5 meters, but they built the parapet to 8.94 meters. So if we could look at the drawings for a minute, as far as the height is concerned, it's only for the height exceedance is only over the master bedroom in the front, which is 13 feet. The rest of the house, the height is 1.2 meters less. I think it's less than 8.5 meters. It's about 8 meters. So can we look at the drawings? I'm not sure if the presenter can pull out the drawings quickly to show you a cross section of. If you go to the last page, please. That's the existing. Oops, no, yeah, right there. So as you can see, that this height that variation that we're requesting is only at the front of the house for length rather than 13 meters. So our original application stayed within all the setbacks allowed and all the length for the building allowed, but just this change, instead of a pitched roof, they decided to go with a flat roof, which causes its height to be higher than what's required, what's approved by the bylaw. The parapet. That's it. I think that's all I can say, unless you have any further questions to me. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't believe that the front basement walkout is a minor variance. I don't believe it's compatible with the character of the rest of the street, and it just does not fit in.
Mr. Chairman, I'm taking you at your word that we will deal with the application as if it hadn't been constructed and it was before us as a plan. That being the case, if you could call up, or if is it Bram that's working the material today, could you pull up drawing A210, please? Okay, I don't think we should forget that this is a semi-detached house. And for anyone that listened to the earlier part of our our meeting, you'll know that we rule against another semi-detached because it didn't fit comfortably with its attached neighbor. This particular applicant has not given us a full front elevation of the two halves of the semi so that we could make that assessment, but this drawing is the best that we've got. And if you look to the right of the tallest portion of the building, you'll see an indication of where the roof of the attached semi-detached building is. And then this massive big block on top of the proposal is, in my view, completely out of keeping with the character of the attached building and with the character of the semi-detached design that's integral to the street. The only reason that that's high is not because they decided to go for a flat roof rather than a pitched roof, and I would argue that that is a questionable decision anyway. The reason it's like that, if you can go back to the section, is because let me see if I can find it and I can give you a, yeah, it's drawing number A213. It's because of the decision to make the master bedroom higher than all the other rooms in the house. So, assuming that this hasn't been built, I would not recommend that we give a variance to allow that particular higher master bedroom to be constructed. On that basis, I will not be supporting the application.
Yeah, so actually, you both stole the points that I was going to make. I actually went up and down the street, and I was hard pressed to find basement walkouts in the front of houses on this street. I mean, sometimes it's a fairly common thing in neighborhoods and on streets, and in those situations, sometimes we think that's appropriate for the character of the neighborhood. But I really couldn't find anything. So it just seemed like this was a brand new or a relatively new development on this street. I also, on the height variance, I thought I heard the applicant say that the original building permit had a different roof line and obviously wouldn't have exceeded the height variance. So it always messes me when someone gets an approval for one thing and then proceeds to build something different and then kind of comes back and asks for forgiveness, knowing full well that probably shouldn't have done that. So I'm uncomfortable with the process. I'm uncomfortable with a couple of the variances that are being requested. So I too, I think, am leaning towards not supporting this application.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring forward a motion to refuse the application. I don't believe that this fits in with the intent and purpose of the official plan.
Yes, good afternoon, committee members. My name is Bart Soki. I'm the agent and architect for this application.
No.
Just that in terms of the privacy screening for the second story deck, that there was an agreement, I believe, that's mentioned by the neighbor. Have you agreed to that?
Yes, the owners are prepared to provide a privacy screen in relation to their bathroom window at 44 Marlow.
Chair, I'm happy to make a motion to, I thought this was quite a minor addition, and in keeping with the neighborhood and the type of changes that are happening in that area, the variances were quite minor, and I would move approval of this application, subject to the applicant agreeing to put opaque screening on the second floor balcony as indicated in the letter.
So if we can just add that 1.5 meter height for the opaque screening, and is it on all sides or is it just the one side, the north side? Maybe
I think the neighbor is on the north side, right?
Yes.
And
if you look at drawing A01, maybe you could put drawing A01 up, you could see. There doesn't appear to be a need to put it on the back of it, but on the I think north side is the correct.
And it adjoins the balcony on the south side, so
the other side, yeah.
Yeah, so I think I'm fine with just leaving it as the north side, Nimrod, if that's okay with you.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay, then we'll leave it as that.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, I'm Giancarlo Jacob, and I'm the owner of 473 Margaretta Street. Sounds good. No.
Yeah, I just had a question for the applicant. If you can just verify that the actual increase in GFA is only 40 square meters, because the variance number 1 indicates that the increase in FSI is quite large, but from what I see, the information shows that the existing FSI is already at 0.72. And so if you can just clarify, what's the actual increase in GFA of the addition?
Okay. Sorry, can you guys hear me right now?
Yep.
Okay. So basically, sorry, I'm not certain exactly what you want me to verify right now. Like, I've got the floor plans in front of me, and I think this is my first time ever doing this kind of application. So
So just the addition that you're proposing, the total
yes.
increase in floor space of the addition is it 40 square meters?
So it's because I see it here, it's 1411 feet by, sorry, I'm trying to read the floor plans here. It's about another 15 square feet going left to right. So that's, sorry, I'm just trying to do my math here. Yes, it is. Sorry, I've just got a text message from the architect, and yes, it is. I do confirm what you stated.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any discernible negative impact to approving this variance. The applicant has elected, and I think rightly so, to place the addition at the back of his property. It has no direct impact on the attached, semi-detached. In fact, the owner of that property, who I think is at 471, has indicated support for the application. Based on what I have before me, Mr. Chairman, I would like to move a motion of approval of the application without any conditions.
I am here. My name is Lynn Houston. I'm the agent for this application. Okay. Well, I'm assuming you'd like me to address the opposition, but that's very difficult to do. We're not really adding a lot to the house. What we're asking for is minimal addition for family use, and an additional bedroom, 2 bathrooms upstairs. The addition is slightly longer, but if you look at the site plan, you will see that the next door neighbor, because of the property line is skewed to the site, so the next door neighbor would be allowed to build an addition the length that we are proposing. And that's why we're asking for the ½ meter extra beyond what is allowed. The area we're asking for is also not particularly large, 0.83 as opposed to 0.69. We are adding an area to 1 window on the side, but not very much else. The application, the opposition, there's not much we can do for view. Again, the only point I see of 0.3, which is the privacy in the inside the house, the windows are very far away from this neighbor's house. I don't think I need to take up the full 5 minutes. Mm-hmm.
Hello. Yeah. The reason we oppose is there'll be the addition will definitely block the sunlight to our vegetable garden, and also the view will be losing view. The east side view, as well as privacy. We're going to be losing our privacy either in the backyard or inside our house. Yeah, that's our main concern. Yeah. The end of our backyard is adjacent to the addition. Very, very close. That's right. Yeah, that's where we have the vegetable garden at the end of our backyard, which is going to be very close to the addition.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, if you could call up drawing A2, I think it would make your discussion easier. There.
563 Pate Avenue.
There.
563 Pate. 563 Pate Avenue. Yeah. See, we have our back. We have to say we're sharing the fence line with with the addition house. Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm here. Well, if you look at the plan again, you will see that the house is not even on our site plan. I don't even think it's on the survey. Those lots are relatively long. Yes, if you look there, the surveyor didn't take that, but the house is not any longer than the one shown on the corner. I'll also point out that we are fully to the east, so there's their side yard is not influenced really by sunlight changes at all. Our addition is to the north of the home. Thank you.
Unless I missed it, and perhaps you could correct me if I have, it doesn't appear that there's any support correspondence from the owner of number 50, which is the attached semi. Have you had any discussions with that owner, or have I missed it, and is there a letter of support?
I do not believe there is one, but I have not had that discussion.
So you haven't talked to him?
He's aware of the project. He is aware of the project.
How do you know that if you haven't talked to him?
Oh, well, I've spoke to the owners. I'm the agent of the owner, and I have not personally spoken to the neighbor. The owners have. They've made him aware of the project.
Oh, so sorry, I misunderstood. So the owners of this property have spoken to the owner of number 50, and he hasn't raised any objection.
No, I did not see any registered objection.
Yeah, I think the two variances are minor. The proposed addition at the rear is fairly small, and I don't believe it has any negative impact. So I would move a motion to approve the variances with no conditions.
Yes, I am. Richard Helfrich here from 51 Gilmour Avenue. Can you hear me? If I may, before I get going, there are 26 or 27 support letters. It's just that some of them were put in the same file for what that's worth. Okay, you're very welcome. We're applying to the Committee of Adjustment because we want to add a bedroom. Sorry about that. How's this? Am I better? I'm sorry about that. I don't know what to do to make myself louder. I'm just a foot away from the. Great. Okay. We're applying to the Committee of Adjustment because we want to add a bedroom and a small walkout onto the back of our existing third floor with close access to a new bathroom. This will provide us with a bedroom that's separate from the office activities required for our ongoing volunteer and consulting activities. We believe that our proposed addition should be considered minor for 6 reasons, I guess. First of all, the added square footage is only 26.8 square meters, or 288.5 square feet. Some of the opposition people have tried to say that it's 50 square meters, but I don't know where they got that number. Our house, along with the semi-detached house to our north, was built in 1912. When the lot coverage bylaw was passed sometime in 1950, it became instantly and unavoidably non-compliant. It had an index of 79 instead of 6 or 69, as did all the similar houses on the street. With the proposed addition, we will have a total square footage of 206 square meters, or about 2,200 square feet. This is not going to be a really big house. It will not be out of character with the neighborhood. There are many bigger houses nearby. There are a number of buildings within 500 meters of our house that exceed the current bylaw by that much or more. I don't know how many, but I easily researched and found 2 on Gilmour, 2 on Fairview, 2 on McGregor, 1 on Ardagh, 1 on Mayor, 2 on Annette. I found an even greater number whose ratios were over 0.79, which is where ours began before our proposed square footage adding. From researching previous COA decisions, all these were ruled by the committee as minor variances and their projects were approved. There are many other bigger full 3-story houses in the area. The addition is within the footprint of the building. The roof line of the flat roof that exists up there already, with the front half story that already exists, the roof level of our addition is going to be the same as that. It'll just extend back. So that's why we think it's minor. We believe that it's desirable and appropriate use because it makes our house compliant with current space needs and modern lifestyles without adding size to the footprint or significantly changing the exterior appearance of the house. The appearance of the front of the house will be absolutely the same. It'll be unchanged. You won't see this addition from the street. The view from the back of the house will be attractive and it'll fit in with other nearby houses as well. It's not going to be a spectacular thing and it's not going to be unlike what's already there. The support for this project from neighbors has been great. The neighbors immediately north, immediately south, and right across the street to the west have provided letters of support back when we first talked to them in October. We also got one from somebody who moved out, but those who moved in also wrote letters of support. The neighbor to the, Behind us, there's a laneway that we share with Fairview Avenue. There are 5 support letters from Fairview Avenue neighbors, including one neighbor that's almost immediately behind us. The proposed addition is not going to add any parking burden to the area. There are 2 to 3 parking spaces on the property. None of the people who have expressed any opposition to us have chosen to discuss the matter with us, despite our written invitation for them to do so. That letter was also distributed to all the mailboxes, to all the neighbors in the area bounded by Runnymede on the west, Fairview on the east, and Net on the north, and Woodbine to the south. So that's basically all I have to say. We think that we're compliant with the city's official plan, zoning, and code bylaws.
Hello? Hear me? Hello? Okay, you can hear me all right? Yes. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I wasn't. I don't hear so well myself, so that's a problem. Okay, I'm Brian Hogan, and my name is Brian Hogan, and I live at 23 Webb. I'm sorry? There's interruption. Okay. This is Mr. Helfrich's presentation because the sound out. So I think there was a lot of rhetoric in there, which I'm going to ignore. Anyways, I've been on 23 Webb for over 40 years, and we're part of the neighborhood that that is defined it's the southeast of Runnymede and Net. We consider Woodside as our south boundary, and our immediate neighbors are on Gilmour, Lincoln, and on Webb. And this is an area of modest homes. It's characterized by predominantly 2.5-story semi-detached dwellings, not single dwellings, but semi-detached on small lots. And over the years, many homeowners, including ourselves, have renovated the attic, adding dormers and walkouts to rear yards. But this has all been within the bylaws, which have served us well and have maintained the character of the neighborhood. However, this applicant is pushing the boundaries for semi-detached renovations in our area because he's seeking permission to build a full 3rd floor flat roof extension, which would be the first in our neighborhood. Many homeowners in our area oppose the application because the variances are major and, if allowed, would set a precedent that would quickly become the future norm for semi-detached redevelopments in our area. And the two major variants that we object to relate to floor area and height. First, on floor area, currently 54 Gilmour is zoned for a floor area equal to 60% of the lot area. But in addition, the current bylaw allows additions provided that they don't exceed 69%, which is another generous 15% increase in the overall floor area. The applicants has requested, and this is all off the notification and the plans that are provided. The applicant is requesting 91%, which is a 22% increase again. That equates to 50 square meters or 536 square feet, which is equivalent of a downtown 1-bedroom condo. So it's a very generous increase. The other major variance was actually overlooked on the application. Height in section 10104010, the maximum height allowed in the area is 10 meters, but there are additional requirements to discourage additions with flat roofs. And the reference there is that the maximum height of the main rear walls and side walls are only 7.5 meters, whereas the applicant has 9 meters to the underside of the roof. So he's 5 feet basically above the maximum. And this particular requirement is to ensure that we don't have just flat roof extensions, that there's a proper ratio of roof to wall. And this has been clearly exceeded. This has drawn attention to the plans examiner, and it's on the file right now. However, this is not the first time a 3rd-story addition to a semi-detached dwelling has been attempted in the area. There was a similar application right across the street at 44, which had excessive floor area and sidewall height. The same two items were set with here. At any rate, that meeting was the focus of a petition. There was over 91 people in opposition. And And though we didn't go door to door like Richard seems to have done under COVID, we think that's still relevant. Anyways, we've concerns of this precedent are, in summary, because third-story extensions are going to become the norm. They increase the footprint, they reduce the rear yard light, and they also set the stage for promoting builder developers who want to have rental makeovers. So we think that, okay, well, we just think they should keep to the existing zoning bylaw.
And Chair, can I just ask Mr. Hogan a question? I notice you live on Webb, Mr. Hogan. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you close to where this proposal is, or?
Yes, Webb Avenue T-bones into Gilmour. 51 Gilmour is right at the base of Webb, and I'm about half a dozen. I'm midway on Webb. It's just down the street from us.
Okay, but you can't see it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Hogan has actually read the application, but the front page that shows the statistics and then a site plan specifically states that the proposed third floor extension is 26.8 square meters, not 50. Okay, so I don't know where he gets 50. He might have got it because he dwells on, or has dwelt on, the fact that this is the same as a proposed renovation across the street. The proposed renovation across the street was not within the footprint. The proposed renovation across the street was not proposed a second floor, a two-story extension at the back, and a full three-story where there was no front half. That's entirely different from what we're doing. Okay, so it's not at all similar to that. We're not asking for a full third floor. We're just asking to tack on to the back of the existing front third floor, which comprises the half story. There is another building on the street that has like 3/4 of a third story. Our building is not going to look any different from the front of the house than it does at this time. Parking is there for 2 or 3 cars. The neighbors who are attached to us to the north approve of this. The neighbors immediately to the south in a 3-story building approve of this. The neighbors across the street who we spoke to a couple of times understand that they can't even see the addition at the back. So certainly Brian Hogan up the street on Webb can't. The people behind us approve of what we're doing. They're almost immediately behind us. Immediately behind us is a four-plex, 4-apartment building. For what it's worth, Mr. Hogan has gone door to door, didn't get much support, but went door to door because we saw what he distributed. You know, had them handed back to us with people shaking their head. So the height, yeah, the height is going to be the same as the existing front half third story that's there already. It's not going to increase from that at all. So I don't quite understand, you know, how it's going to be 5 feet higher than that. Our building is not going to be at all the highest building. The neighbors immediately to the south of us, the next 2 houses, are considerably higher than our house. So I think with that, I've answered everything that Mr. Hogan has brought up. We're looking for a reasonable, attractive building that's going to fit right in and be a credit to the neighborhood.
I have a question. Yeah, my question is, on the third floor plan, you're showing for that deck, that balcony, that you're proposing 1.8 meter high opaque screening and solid 6 feet, 1.8 meter solid privacy screening. Is that on all 3 sides of that deck?
No. No, it's only on the north side because it really isn't going to have any impact, you know, on the other sides. I'm not opposed to doing it on the south side as well, but you know, we can already look into the backyards through windows that, you know, pre-exist, that came when the house was built in 1912, I guess.
All right, thank you.
You know, Chair, I thought this was, I mean, the actual variances requested are quite modest, particularly given what the existing FSI of the existing house is. The incremental increase is relatively modest. There is no height variation. There is no depth in variation. Frankly, when we see third story additions, these are actually the kinds that actually are done quite thoughtfully and consistent with keeping with the neighborhood, as the proponent has said. I think this is a good proposal. I think it's consistent with what is already in the neighborhood, and I think we should support it. And I'm prepared to take a motion forward to that effect. Just checking to see if there are any conditions, and I don't see any, so I'll move approval with no conditions.
Larry, can we just add a condition about the?
Sure, of course.
Just on the north side of that third floor terrace deck, that there be minimum 1.8 meter high opaque screening.
Sure, I'm happy with that. Yep, I think the proponent said he'd be happy to do that.